Hey, hello. So due to the current mono, we are forced to, we faculty are forced to do asynchronous classes. And for me, I better do a pre-record so that you do not depend too much on the schedule we have. So you can watch this video anytime you want. So I think we could take advantage on that. So at the moment, we are finishing on the topic of loops. So no, maybe we could review some of the topics. Maybe we have skipped something. So we are at the moment in the topic of do while loop. So in loops, there are three types you could remember. So the first one is for loop, and then the second one is while loop, and the third one is do while. So we, I guess we understood very well the difference of for loop and while loop. Well, first of all, it's they are differed basically in their structure. The for loop starts with its initialization and then followed by the condition and then the updates or the incrementation or decrementation. So then followed by what of a loop. In while loop, as you all remember, we go directly with the condition, knowing that prior to this line of code, which is in line 30, we have some initialization. We need to use a variable somehow update uh, update our value to make our condition dynamic. So if we just put one here, the Boolean value for say for a Boolean value for of a condition, so we're not getting anywhere. It just repeat itself infinitely. So we have somehow to make this value change over time. So we have to adopt the use of variable. So in this case, it's best. Uh, it's a good sense of use of variable, and then we could adopt this into condition, right? So we know that I is zero, and then um, with the use of variable, this condition will eventually become false as we can reassign a value to them, right? So yeah, so these were their differences. Um, well, in terms of line implementation, it's much uh, uh, we use more lines compared to for loop. And in best practice, we avoid missing important important parameters, important requirements to perform a for loop, thereby preventing our computer machine to crash. Because there are part of it like the initialization, the condition updates. We are forced to do this before we can successfully perform the loop. Whereas in while loop, we just have to put condition and then yeah, remembering that we have variables. So that's the idea. But what if we forgot to initialize or we forgot to have a variable? So the tendency would be it could cause error in your program. Also for the reuse, for the code reuse, say for instance, you want to use again the I, but forgot that after this line, the I is the I valued to non-zero, right? Non-zero. So it's best it's best to use for loop in this case as you are forced to put initialization part. So that's the idea um, or the difference between the for loop. Now we go over with the do while loop. Um, yeah, we're finished with the for loop and the do while loop. So now we're we'll talk about the do while. As the name suggests, it says do while. So it means that um in for loop you have to um you have to first successfully identify um take successful representation of particular idea or values before you could successfully run body a statement or run a couple of statements in the body part of for loop. Whereas in the do while loop, uh, it means, as the name suggests, you have to do first, meaning that regardless of the condition, if true or false, it will perform the body statement. Say you have here printf hello world, and this is the structure. So let's identify first the structure of a the structure of a do while loop. So first it has a do, and here the body statement, and then you should never forget the while loop below, and it should end with a semicolon. So basically, what the while contain is a condition. So that's the structure. So the idea of do while loop is that regardless of your condition here below is true or false, still the condition, I mean the body statement will perform regardless if this true or false. Okay, so let's run this code. Let's see. Oh, this is very strict. So the hello world, the do while loop outputs the hello world. As you can see, um, it do first before checking if the condition is true or false. If condition is true, what will happen? So you see, it prints hello world and check um, the condition if true. If the condition is true, what will happen? It will repeat part of the do block. So it will repeat the do block. Okay, so forcing a repetition. So that's the idea of do while. So this could make sense on some real world applications, as if um, it doesn't bother if there are instances that you need to check. Just perform the whole thing and later on check particular condition or states. So this could advantage on, yeah, um, some real world applications. So if you could compare this one to a while, so basically it's totally different because you have to check first the condition. Okay, so to force this block or the do block repeat itself, you have to make the condition true, right? You have to make somehow this one, but you all don't know, putting static value like 1 could make this loop, it won't stop, right? Or infinite. So we have to somehow use um, a particular volume to make this whole thing dynamic. So that's another um, risky part of using a while loop because you have to remember again what's the last value of a particular variable that you would like to assess on a loop. So in this case, the I. So we can say I is less than 5, and we have to remember or consider where to put the updates for the I. Make this loop stop at several repetition. Okay, so in my case, I'd like to put it here, right? You can put on top. So let's examine if what will happen if we'll put the I, uh, we'll put the I is equals to I plus 1 on top of the hello world. Let's see if there are difference. Okay, so I guess you can see it clearly what's really happening if you won't put slash n. So it prints 5 times. But what if we put here below, right? Still, right? It prints 5 hello world. Okay, because you're checking if okay. So okay, prints and then yeah, that's pretty it. So if we put here on top, I guess we wait example. What if equal? So I believe it's 6. Yeah, right. 6 hello world. Okay, so if you make a while loop to compare the difference between the do while loop and a while loop. So basically, on a while, you have to consider the condition. Have to use the same condition, so it's no problem with that. So um, since you're using similar variables, so you have to considering that I is less than or equal to 5. So you have to start somewhere between or somewhere from 0 or 1. So in our case, it should be 0, and uh, lo- we're we're expecting that I could reach to 5, right? So we have to reinitialize the value. Okay, and we should never forget the use of I plus plus, right? So let's see the difference. Okay, so I think we have to print 2 slash n. So in order to see clearly what's the do while loop block and the while. So in the do while loop block, it still it prints hello world 6 times, and then while loop block it prints 6 times also. So in this case, we're not having the difference with them, only the structure, right? Okay, so that's the idea. So okay, if you have question, feel free to drop your questions below to this video. So I'll be putting a forum guys, forum. So please put your questions there. I'll be happy answering those questions. We are implementing, we're using a forum to avoid um, repeating questions or repeating similar questions. So you have to observe also if you would like to ask questions. So maybe you could glance also on forum if maybe you have a classmate also having similar questions to you. Okay. Okay, so The advantage of using a do while loop if you have this complex logic, so you don't bother much on the condition part because right away it will do a certain block of statements. So you will be having something right away, the initial part of the code. Oh, okay. In the while loop part, you have to consider the condition first. So this is very strict as if it requires a certain conditions to be true, right? Also for the for loop, we don't need to add another line for the initialization part because we do know that for loop has an initialization block, right? It's less than equals 5 and then I plus plus, right? And then look how shortened the code in for loop part, right? Guys. So you can take advantage the use of for loop in this case, right? Load. So also 6 times. Okay. So I'll be demonstrating a very important thing here. So if you have questions on the do while loop, feel free to drop it in the forum again. So now we're finished with the do while loop. Let's proceed on the nested, guys. So nested loop is an idea where we could nest loops inside a bigger loop. We could consider um, we could nested loop is our nested loops are loops inside a loop. So basically, we have a loop having, say, for instance, a while loop. We could use actually any loop that we want, either of the three, for any of the three, for loop, while loop, and the do while. So we can nest them all together also. So while loop, and then we, we just have a condition, and then we can use another while loop inside an existing while. Okay, so um, why are we using this? What's the idea? What application could we use in this particular sense? Say, for instance, you're having mathematical uh, mathematical table, right? Say, for instance, you're having this matrix, and in this part you have yellow colors. So this pertains to, say, um, I'm searching border. So we have five matrices or indices. So basically, we're using, say, for instance, a while loop here. Um, we're assessing this when I is equals to 1, okay, right? I is equals, no, I should use 1. So next, I is equals to 2, I is equals to 3, I is equals to 5. So basically, we're looping. And with our loop, tracking the value of I, we can have 5 yellow boxes, right? 5 yellow boxes. But what if on each boxes we can perform another loop? Like this could in this case, in nested loops is very important. We can perform this uh, particular task in this case. So what if in each loop um, we could loop another instances or some task, right? So say for instance, on each loop we could print another boxes of, say, blue boxes, right? We'll print 5 boxes. Okay. So maybe we're- um, we won't use I in this case. So I guess for this instance, we have to use X to avoid confusion in your case. So you can also track the increments of each of the X's. So in this case, it will reach 5. So basically, our goal is to print 5 boxes on each yellow boxes, right? So does this make sense to you? Oh, I believe does make sense, right? So we're doing this. Okay, how could we do this? Um, Basically, we can do this with the use of nested loop. This is the only way to make this thing, no, not to make this thing. So, of course, should be basic loops and retain the I. So we will use I in this condition. We will be reaching 5. So we know I would start from 0, right? And also we can start with 1 because in this case I is 1, right? So yeah, and then so we're printing yellow boxes. So let's say first yellow box. So right, let's print. Let's use this statement, then run. So we have what? How many? 5 yellow boxes, right? So now on each yellow boxes, we have to print 5 also. 5 blue boxes. How will we do that? So it means that on each iteration, we have to reconsider another group just to print several boxes. In our case, 5 boxes, right? So we can comment out first to not repeat the typing again. So we could use do while. It depends on preference, but in my case, let's use in the meantime the while loop. So what could be our condition in this part? So in this case, we will use x, right? So we have to consider use x. So now x, we're clearly starting from 1 and we will be reaching to 5. So might as well use the same condition who's on our outer loop. So the thing here is the loop that actually been initialized or structured first is the outer loop. So we could name this as the outer loop. Don't forget that for the external loop. And what we have here is the inner, right? Okay, so our goal is the blue boxes. So we have to print blue box, right? And don't forget to update this, right? Okay, so um, we're having a, wait guys, excuse me for a while. Okay, so we're missing something here. If we force this one, this condition, hmm, when x reaches 5, and then this loop will what? When x reaches 5, I believe that this loop won't perform again. Why? Because x already reached to 6, maybe, or 5 or 6 something. So obviously, when 5 x reaches to 5, this condition would still be true, right? So it might be something 6 or more. So in order for this while loop to stop. So this happened, x becomes 6. This happened at the very first loop of the outer loop, right? So this inner loop would stop once x reaches 6. But what if this performs and then the while loop check its condition again? So I believe when I is 2 this time, so it'll check again while while x is less than equal to 5. So it won't checks, right? This results to false because x is now 6. So what we'll be doing is to re reset again the value of x to 1. We have to do that because in this case, when we print the first yellow box and then attempting to print 5 boxes, what's the last value of the x? The last value of x in our case would be 5, right? So when printing again the second block, at the end of this loop, x is 6, right? That is why it stops to 5 boxes. But when we're printing another box, let's say the second box, how do we print again the another set of boxes when we know that x is already 6? And our condition here is x is less than 5, right? We're aiming it to be true in order to print another series of boxes. So we have to consider resetting the value of x into 1, satisfying this condition. Okay, so in our case, on top of a while loop, we have to reset x is equals to 1. Or you could also put it here if you want. So perform a test, several tests in your case to understood this part very well because this is very crucial in while performing nested. Okay, okay. So, mhm. So let's see if we're printing. Um, I guess we have to print the next line here in order that these blue boxes would be printed next to each other horizontally. Okay, so let's print this out. And yeah, we have one, how many? Two, three, four, five. 5 boxes. And we have five also. We have 5 boxes with respect to its column. And we have 5 boxes with respect to its rows. So um, check it here, right? So, okay. So it indeed checks out. No? Okay. So what else? So this is in this case we're actually using multiple lines of codes. Let's compare this using let's compare a for loop implementation in this case. I think I have to pop this up and check again later. Okay, so this time we will use for loop. So the good thing about for loop is that you have an initialization block. You don't have to uh, you won't be having a chance for getting some important blocks that builds your logic. In this case, it's actually a best practice using for loop equals so on. Okay, and then let's print the blue box. Let's see if uh, things are different when using uh, for loop. So In for loop, actually, codes are very shortened, and your logic could easily be visualized in this case. So let's see if it would be the same when implementing for loop. Yeah, still have what? How many? Four columns of blue boxes and five rows of blue boxes. Well, okay. So I hope this makes sense to you. Let's try to let's make this yellow box out, right? So let's see. Okay, so you have five yellow boxes, and for each yellow box, you have five blue boxes as well. So I hope nested loop makes sense to you. What about we're shuffling the idea also of another loop like the do while. So let's have a comparison of for loop and do while. So good the good thing about do while loop is that it will do first before checking out the condition. So that's the advantage of do while. Regardless of your condition is true, whether your condition is true or false, it won't matter, right? It will perform a particular block of statement, in this case, the blue boxes. And we have to we have to then check the condition in order to repeat the previously executed statements. So in this case, we will be using x. Is it x equals to 5? So we don't have at the moment an update block. So we have to consider resetting the x to updating the x with 1, right? And resetting the x with 0. Oh no, 1. So let's check if this still be the output. Yeah. Okay, so okay, what about after this one? Can we implement all three together? Yes, we could still use for loop within a do while loop. You could also perform more loops within an outer loop. So if you prefer like putting another loop here, so there won't be any problem as long as you retain the logic, build a logic to it that would satisfy the use of loops on that particular segment of your code. So I think there won't be any problem. So feel free to drop your questions in the forum. So I'll be putting I mean forum. I'll be putting a forum in the LMS. So yeah, if you think I missed something on this discussion and you would like me to make a separate presentation on it, so please let me know in the forum. I mean forum below. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Bye bye.